financial problems, elder law, tax problems, business matters, divorce, personal injury, bankruptcy, your life, your reality. Life is complicated. There is the law and there is reality. Welcome to Law and Reality, sponsored by Thav Gross. Now here's your host, Ken Gross.
Welcome to Law and Reality. Today it's a reality show. It's after Thanksgiving. We've had a lot to eat, so I thought I'd try and come up with a topic that was law and reality.
How'd your turkey come out?
Turkey came out very good, thank you. Yours? Everybody?
Wonderful.
Everybody enjoy their holiday?
Absolutely.
Topic today, to start out, we're going to get to taxes later, continuation from last week, is should I shed the debt or shed the pounds? Now you might ask, what in the world are we talking about pounds for? But I thought it would be fun to do and pull out some numbers. NBC News, May 2014, the whole world is getting fatter. 160 million Americans are either obese or overweight. That's 78 million adults. 3/4 of American men are overweight, 60% of American women. ABC News 2012, there's 108 million dieters. They spend $20 billion a year on weight loss programs. 85% of that money is spent by women. If you exercise 1 hour per day, those who do so have been able to keep off weight loss of up to 30 pounds for 5 years with exercise. So that's the scene on the shed the weight issue. Now let me shift. How many Americans are in debt? According to U.S. News, 1 in 3 Americans are near financial disaster. That's as of February of this year. What is the total consumer debt in America? More than 160 million Americans have credit cards. The average credit card holder has at least 3 cards. On average, each household with credit card debt has more than $15,000 in debt. Total U.S. consumer debt is at $11.4 trillion. 30% of Americans reported having more credit card debt than emergency savings. That's the highest percentage in the last 4 years. 70% reported that they had neither emergency savings nor credit card debt. Good side on the no credit card debt. So what do we have? We've got a society that's fat and in debt.
And it's the same number. 160 million Americans are overweight,
but not
and 160 million Americans are in debt.
But not necessarily the same people.
I was going to say, is it the same group?
I don't think there's a linear connection.
Don't we need a Venn diagram? You know, you got the 160 here, and you got the 160 here, and then you draw circles, and who overlaps?
Here's my question. Back to Law and Reality. Which is easier? Is it easier to get out of debt or to lose the weight? What do you think? Anybody have opinions?
I'll
get out of debt.
Get out of debt.
David?
There's a reason why Florine Mark has a 99% rate of return customers.
What, because it's harder to get out of debt?
They all come back.
Or
It's hard to get out, hard to lose weight.
Oh, because they all come back.
They all come back.
We don't have that many repeat customers, is what you're saying. We're good at helping people get out of debt, but they don't have to come back because it's not a continual problem.
Well, that's the thing.
Or is it? What about, we call them repeat offenders.
It can be
I don't call them repeat offenders.
It can be a continual problem, but one of the strategies that we use here is, at least with my clients, I take a holistic approach to solving their debt problems. I don't just look at eliminating the debt.
You put them on exercise programs as well?
You know what? You know what?
There's meditation going on in his office. Incense.
I want to get rid of the debt.
If I walk by your office and you're on down dog, I'm leaving.
You know what? You laugh, and this is it's funny.
Debt elimination through yoga.
But there is
Yoga's
a reality here about a holistic approach. When I deal with a
Let's be
client,
serious and listen to this.
when I deal with a client and we're going to put them through a bankruptcy, okay, that gets rid of the debt.
That's an anxiety factor.
But at the same time, you're looking at what caused the problem. Why are they in debt? Can we help them with budget management skills, which will help them eliminate the possibility of going into debt again? Can we help them learn how to create these emergency funds so that they can suffer through a financial emergency? If you look at just the problem and you are a surgeon and you do the surgery, you will eliminate the cancer. But the cancer
You have
can
to
come
change
back if
patterns.
you don't change your way you do
And I think you have a
things.
much greater chance of sustaining a healthier, debt-free or reasonable debt going forward than you do with actual physical weight gain and weight loss. So if you can get in that mode, and there is a psychological aspect to it, you can keep it off.
Yeah, I have another analogy that I think goes with that, in that whenever you want to try and adopt a change in pattern, it works well to adopt something new. Going on a diet is one thing, but if all of a sudden, if you haven't been exercising and you make the move and you become regimented on exercise as a regular basis, that complements the diet and changes your pattern. And by changing your pattern and adopting a new one, it becomes much easier to sustain that position. On debt, same thing. It's a spending situation.
Changing your lifestyle, learning to live within your means is what is the core solution to the holistic approach of getting out of debt or avoiding debt in the future.
Does it have to be learning to live within your means or learning to live smart?
Well, it's probably the same thing.
Because learning to live within your means, to me, sounds like punishment. Learning to live smart sounds positive. It's smart not to spend more than you make. But when you say learning to live with your means, it's like I get the feeling like you're punishing me, like I've been a bad person and I haven't lived within my means and now I have to. I don't want to be punished.
How that they can live from Sunday to Saturday without a problem and enjoy life, that is the key to getting yourself out of debt and moving forward in life.
All right, so if you go to our next seminar, which we'll talk about, are we going to concentrate and also provide tips on how to shed weight, or are we just going to concentrate on debt?
I think we'll concentrate on debt because I'm not going to be
After the break, we'll talk taxes.
Is the debt piling up? Struggling to get by?
It's all about preserving future income. Bankruptcy is one option. When it's right, it's the least costly, most effective way to save your home, eliminate a second mortgage, and wipe out credit card debt. But you need to address the problem now.
We help people with bankruptcy. Call the experts.
Worth Ave Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP. Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call Thav Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call Thav Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
A lifetime of hard work. If you don't have the right plan in place, you can lose your home, your savings, and more. And you didn't come this far to lose everything. Samasco Law wants you to know that laws are changing. Today, the average cost of nursing home care is $85,000 a year. With proper planning, we can help protect your life savings and get you the Medicaid nursing home benefits you deserve.
How much can you afford to lose? Call Samasco Law today.
If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
Thav Gross specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Worth Ave Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
Tax problems are major problems. Don't let the IRS levy your wages and seize your assets. There is a solution.
Worth Ave Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
If you're behind on your taxes and owe money to the IRS, call Fav Gross.
We've been solving tax problems for 32 years. We stop wage levies, resolve unfiled returns, and obtain the best possible settlements.
Call Fav Gross today, 888-235-HELP.
If you remember, if you were watching last week, and if you weren't watching, we'll catch you up. We started talking about the audit process on taxes. And where we were last week is we went through the process of if you're audited and the results of the audit. And Jenny, what's the report they give you at the end of the audit?
You get the income tax examination changes form, and they ask you to sign it. If you sign it, the decision becomes final.
And so that form is basically laying out to you what they're changing from your tax return. Typically, they're denying some deductions. They're saying you didn't pick up some income or something like that. And at the end, there's a bottom line, and they've added additional tax.
Penalties
They may have
and
added penalties, and for sure there's going to be interest on
Who
whatever
is
the
they
tax
that you're referring to specifically?
The
They
revenue agent.
is the Internal Revenue.
So wait,
Well,
if
hold
I
on,
don't
hold on,
sign this form,
Wait,
what
Hold on.
happens?
Wait, Brian.
Hold on. This
Wait.
is big. This is critical.
One at a time.
You're talking about the revenue agent that has spent the time, that has met, that has looked at your situation,
That took
and
this
has-
holistic approach?
and that
I
has,
don't know about that.
has made a determination. And so at that point in time, I don't think you're going to have great success in getting them to change what they believe the report should say.
Well, even on that, at the point where they issue this form, is there still room to negotiate with the auditor, or is it the audit basically concluded at that point?
At the point when they issue the income tax examination changes form, you can request a meeting with their manager to challenge it. However, I have found, unless there's something glaring, and sometimes there are errors on it, that you have the magic piece of paper, it's a waste of time.
All right, now, Brian, what were you going to ask Jenny?
I was just say, so they give you this form, and they say sign it. And what happens if you don't?
So wait, what happens if you do?
Well, yeah,
You're
what happens
saying
if
don't
you do?
sign it. What happens if you do sign it?
If you do sign it, the decision becomes final at that point.
There's no appeal, there's no tax court, there's no
later
nothing.
ability to challenge it.
So rule number one, unless you're absolutely in agreement with the results of the audit, suppose it was a great, outstanding result, you do, then you could sign it. Otherwise, you don't sign it. You sit down and you have it reviewed by us or a lawyer or your CPA to decide, is this an acceptable outcome, or can I be better off
I
by
would say,
challenging
unless
it?
it's such a small dollar amount, it's always good to have a CPA or an attorney look at it. I've had clients, let's say, who are truck drivers, who have gas, who say, well, I didn't keep any of my gas receipts, so I agree that they disallowed it. Revenue
that's
agents
not fair.
will disallow that, and they'll explain, well, you don't have the receipts, you're not qualified. But if we move on to the next step, we get to deal with the appeals officers and attorneys who have more discretion.
All right, what is the next step?
The next step is they would issue the notice of deficiency. The notice of deficiency is just basically a 2-page letter that's attached to the income tax examination changes
Sent
form.
by certified mail.
Yes, that will say, if you do not agree, file a petition with the U.S. Tax Court within 90 days.
All right, now
So,
let me,
wait,
let me-
hold on. Let me just
no,
make
no.
sure I get it. So you got the audit report. You didn't sign it. They're still going to issue the notice of deficiency.
Correct.
Yeah, now,
Okay.
I want to emphasize the notice of deficiency because the date of that letter starts the 90 days.
The
And
letter
you
will
must-
usually stamp the date that you must file that
You
petition
must
by.
file the petition in the 90 days. There are no extensions allowed. It's called jurisdiction. And the way the statute says in the Internal Revenue Code is you must file that petition within 90 days. You can't call up IRS and say, can I have another 30 days? I haven't gotten my stuff together. They don't even have the authority to extend it. I've actually litigated that case a couple of times over the years. It's a very tight rule. The message that you need to know is if you get that letter and you want to challenge it, you need to file that tax court petition, because the tax court petition allows you to challenge the tax without paying it, which is something you certainly want to do. All right, so we go, there's been an audit, it's a business audit, they're saying you owe $75,000. I don't have all of my records, I wasn't as deficient, can I gain and benefit? Let's take your truck driver example. Is filing the tax court petition something that will help me, and how do I do it? Do I do it myself?
I would not advise filing a petition in the U.S. Tax Court yourself. And yes, it will benefit you. What will happen is we file the petition, and then the first thing happens is an appeals officer, typically in the Detroit area, will get assigned. And they'll call and they'll say, well, what are the issues here? And they'll, most of the time, and I would say 99% of the time, they'll say, well, obviously a truck driver had gas.
Yeah.
They had gas expenses.
That's a big point that people have to realize is, yes, you didn't do a good job keeping receipts, but you drove the truck because you made all of these stops, pickups, and deliveries. You can establish that you did drive, and in order to drive, you need fuel. Therefore, you can work your way backwards into a logical
You're
amount.
trying to
Right,
level.
the
You're
fuel
trying to
costs
level the
during the
playing
time.
field. The revenue agent or the revenue officer you're dealing with, they don't care about the auditor. They don't care per se about having to prove those issues or defend those issues. They're not worried about how much time it's going to take in court and the credibility that they're going to have, because the judge is going to know that a truck driver has to utilize a reasonable amount of gas. They're going to know that the truck driver can recreate to a certain extent where they've been.
Then why did they deny the whole deduction in the first place? That's not
because
fair.
they look
we got
at
1 minute before the break.
Because they look at the statute. It says you have to have a receipt, and they say that's not a receipt, and they're not going to deal with manufacturing it. So you level the playing field. The appeals officer cares about that because they're in the middle, and ultimately
Whereas
the attorney
the
general
auditor
does
wants
as well.
to get done with the audit. If he can make it, he or she can make it easy on them to say no receipts, no deduction, no soup for you. But that's not the end of the story. Remember, it's an adversarial situation. The government wants you to think when you go to irs.gov that they're real nice and they're going to go easy on you, but it doesn't work that way.
It's only the end if you make it the end.
Yourself.
If you sign off on it and you really don't know what you're doing, you've made it the end. It's really the beginning.
Right. All right, we're coming back to the break. In the last segment of the show, I want to talk about how does the tax court process work? Is it like a real court? Is it like district court, like circuit court? Is it like are they just calling it court, but it's not really court? What is this thing, tax court?
Is the debt piling up? Struggling to get by?
It's all about preserving future income. Bankruptcy is one option. When it's right, it's the least costly, most effective way to save your home, eliminate a second mortgage, and wipe out credit card debt. But you need to address the problem now.
We help people with bankruptcy. Call the experts.
Worth Ave Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP. Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call Thav Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call Thav Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
A lifetime of hard work. If you're approaching retirement and don't have the right plan in place, you can lose your home, your investments, and your savings. And you didn't come this far to lose everything. Putting a solid strategy in place with Samasco Law legally protects your assets as well as your wishes. Since a will doesn't cover you medically or financially, Samasco Law goes beyond ordinary asset management protection to safeguard everything you have.
How much can you afford to lose? Call Samasco Law today.
If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
Thav Gross specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Worth Ave Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
A lifetime of hard work. If you don't have the right plan in place, you can lose your home, your savings, and more. And you didn't come this far to lose everything. Samasco Law wants you to know that laws are changing. Today, the average cost of nursing home care is $85,000 a year. With proper planning, we can help protect your life savings and get you the Medicaid and nursing home benefits you deserve.
How much can you afford to lose? Call Samasco Law today.
Tax problems are major problems. Don't let the IRS levy your wages and seize your assets. There is a solution.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
If you're behind on your taxes and owe money to the IRS, call Thav Gross.
We've been solving tax problems for 32 years. We stop wage levies, resolve unfiled returns, and obtain the best possible settlements.
Call Thav Gross today, 888-235-HELP.
All right, so I want to get into how this tax court works, but let me do announcements first. Welcome our Flint viewers, Fox 66. Our Flint office is up and running. Call 888-235-HELP, and we'll meet with you at the Flint office. Want to make sure people are aware of that. Wednesday, December 9th is our next seminar. The best gift is becoming debt-free. I like that name for the seminar, by the way.
Good one. Better than snow in September or something like that.
You liked that one then.
I did.
The important thing on the seminars is this. We go through every possible option you have to preserve future income for you and your family. Bankruptcy is an option. Chapter 7, Chapter 13, solutions outside of bankruptcy, doing debt resolution on credit cards, short selling rental property or your home if it's still underwater,
Deeds in
loan
lieu.
modifications, deed in lieu, how all these things fit together to come up with the right strategy to get out of debt to allow you to start putting money away so that when you get to 65, 70, there's more left for you to live on other than Social Security. Good Lord knows where we're going to be on Social Security when you guys get that old. I think I'm pretty safe at this point.
You already have, don't you have required minimum distributions at this point?
No, I do not.
Oh, okay.
The seminar is 7 to 8, that's on an IRA, 7 to
I know.
8:30
I
p.m.
understand.
At our offices in Bingham Farms. You sign up at lawandreality.com. Attendees get a free copy of my book, Dump Your Debt. The websites also have, Thav Gross has a brand new website, thavgross.com. Please take a look at it. Free reports on the website, Retiree's Guide to Social Security from Pat Simasko. Simasko Law is our co-sponsor. And also How to Save Your Home Using the Hidden Secrets of Red X by yours truly. Both reports are available free on the website. Take a look. All right, tax court. So you file in tax court. Is there? I've driven downtown before, but I always call you Bonnie, my wife, Jenny. I drive downtown and I don't see a building that says tax court. Where is the tax court?
Well, the tax court sits in a bunch of different states. So they're typically in Michigan twice a year, usually in the fall and in the spring. So what happens when you...
Is there a courthouse? Or do you go to a courthouse?
You go to the courthouse.
So they rent a courthouse?
It's at the federal courthouse.
It's in the federal building. Okay.
Yes.
They use one of the federal courthouses.
They do indeed.
So it is a real court, but it
is a
travels
real court.
effectively.
It does. Yes, it does. So when you file that petition, most people, if you have a real case, can resolve it without actually going to trial. Because the first step is the appeals officer. And the appeals officer has discretion. There's a little bit of a give and take, like we said with the truck driver. The appeals officer knows that we could put our client on the stand, that we could get affidavits, that we could put experts in the field to say how much this individual would have spent. The attorneys do not want to try this type of case because they really want to focus on the taxpayers that do owe the funds and not just taxpayers that didn't keep the appropriate records.
So you try and negotiate a settlement at that point?
At that point, we tried to negotiate the dollar amount that we think that the taxpayer really owes.
But
Now,
it's
there's one-
important to understand,
Yeah, go
though,
ahead.
is it's not the scenario just because you get into tax court that, oh, you're going to be able to negotiate a settlement because you're going to say, I'll give you 100, no, 25, 50. It doesn't work that way.
Tax court is not the place to
they
negotiate
can't settle
settlements.
just based upon
Dollars or risk of litigation.
You have to show them a reason why you're right.
Risk
Right.
of litigation is one of a number of factors that they're able to take into consideration, but is not outcome determinative. So you need to develop a
theory.
recognized sound theory of why you don't owe the total amount that the auditor is saying you owe.
Example, like what you were saying on the truck expense, even though you don't have the gas receipts, you can say they traveled all of these stops, they made all these deliveries, the customers are in Oklahoma and Texas.
I've done
they had
MapQuest and shown the mileage and pulled up what the gas prices were during those years.
We've handled one where there was a massive deduction for automobile expense by principals of a company, and they didn't have a log. But we were able to show, based upon the logistics and the timing and where how close they live to their home versus how many miles they drove, that there had to be a business portion to the expense. And then by creating an elaborate spreadsheet that showed a basis of a number that we could go into court and testify with an expert on, then you're giving them a theory by which they can then agree to settle. But if you just walk in and say, I got no receipts, but you guys don't want to try the case, give me half the deduction.
Another example
that's
is
not
the
gonna work.
IRS took the position that our client had zero inventory on hand at the beginning. Well, it was ridiculous to say they had zero inventory because they were a substantial business. It was, I think, in the plumbing industry,
Yeah, what's
and they
sitting in the
had to have
warehouse?
inventory. They had trucks out every day, 24/7. It didn't make any sense,
Well, and
and
I
we were
think-
able to back it in.
I think that
with
goes
other-
back to a revenue agent spent a lot of time on that file, about 1.5 years. And when I took it to the appeals officer, she sat down and she basically said, and this was 5 minutes, I went downtown Detroit, I sat in her office and she said, this is ridiculous. She says, but I was a revenue agent. She says, sometimes what happens is you spend so much of your time on a file
Become
looking
vested.
for something that you think it must be there. So 5 minutes later, the client that owed $100,000 owed $0, and
That's
I
a
got
good
to go
outcome.
home.
We're coming back into the last 2 minutes. Sometimes you can't resolve it at appeals.
Correct.
And it's going, and now it's prepping for trial. And you have discovery, you have witnesses, you have documents that you have to produce. These are the things we do as lawyers. But even then, prepping the case, getting ready to go, there's still the opportunity to settle when you get that week before trial, because tax court's no different than any court. Most cases
I've had
settle.
a case.
Attorneys
I've
don't
had
want
a
to try the
case where we were standing in front of the judge, the attorney general, and myself. The judge called the case to start the proceeding. We walked up to the podium, and the AG said, "Fine," boom, and gave a number. And I said, "Fine," and the judge
this in
said,
state court?
"This was in." No,
State.
this was in federal
Federal.
tax court. We're sitting there. There's 100 people in there because they call them quickly. Then they assign you a actual day later in the week for your trial. So the judge calls us up. He says, "Fine, okay." We settled it as we were walking up to the podium.
That kinda
and
sounds
the
like
judge says,
a
"Where
scene
are we?
from A Few Good Men."
Where are we on this case?" And the AG said, "Oh, we've settled, Your Honor." So it depends.
So
it can happen.
The point being made, we're summarize. An audit is not something you want to go through, but it's something that happens. It's a statistical probability. If you're self-employed and in business your whole life, you probably will go through one audit sometime or another. You have to deal with it. You have to plan and address it. If you don't get the result you want at the audit level, you need to take it to the next step, to the tax court, so that you can try and settle and get yourself a better deal through the appeal process. Sometimes you try the case, but the goal is to position yourself to make the best possible deal, taking into account how much it's going to cost you to defend versus how you're going to pay for it. And then after it's all over, if you owe the money, we have other solutions in terms of dealing with the debt. But that we're going to save for another day. Have a great week. We'll be back next week with Law and Reality.